Hello everybody and welcome to Thursday evening here in Yorkshire, and all of your garment making questions are sat in front of me ready to be answered. So we're delighted to see you this evening. David of course is here. Peter has just rushed back from the gym and tried to push me away from the mirror as I was putting my makeup on so that he could smarten himself up, and I had to say, go away please Peter. Fortunately there are
quite what you said.
No, he said have you finished here? And I said no, I haven't even started and I am late, at which point he rushed off. Were those my exact words, Peter?
Something like that.
Something like that, yes. Anyway, so we're all ready now, and yeah, I'm going to pass you over to David. He can say hi to you and welcome you from wherever you are in the world.
Okay, thank you, Philippa. Hi, everybody. So lots of people on tonight. We've got about 35 people already, and lots of people will be joining over the next 5 minutes. Jacqueline Peters, I think you were first to say hello tonight from Hertfordshire. Deb from Rhode Island, you're always fairly early on, so hello to you. Jill Merritt says hello, good evening Philippa and David from the south of France,
nice.
Where we're delighted that it's raining. Yeah, I think probably everyone's delighted it's raining in the south of France at the moment. We've had some rain here today as well, actually, although it has also been very sunny, so we're doing well. Denise Bullock, Christina Rui, we had a question from you on Tuesday night, didn't we, Christina? Rosemary Soper. Rosemary, you say this is the last one. We'll miss the sessions. We're keeping going till December on the lives. The shop closes on Sunday, but we're keeping going with the live sessions until December. So this isn't quite the last one. We're hoping to go out with a bang, maybe a cracker or something like that will be a bang. Elizabeth Humphreys, Fiona Harpin, lots of people. Jennifer Clifford's on from New Zealand. Welcome, Jennifer. Okay, I'm going to hand back to Philippa.
Yes, so all happening. Yes, you have got this session, and then we have September, October, November and December. So including this session, you've got 5 more lives to go. So still plenty of chance to get questions in there. So don't think that that is all over. And then, yes, as David says, the store closes on Sunday, after which you will not be able to buy anything else. So if there's anything you want to be able to watch for the next couple of years or more, then you need to purchase it before we actually close the store at the end of this month. But we will be here to the end of 2028 in terms of your classes being available to you, and I am still going to be very much aware of what is happening, and you know, there will be not radio silence completely from this end. You know, you still be able to ask questions through Kajabi and so on.
Kelly's still going to be around as well.
Kelly is still going to be around. I'm just going to be exploring new opportunities, so not retiring, just opening up my opportunities to see what else comes my way. It is my plan, and I hope it's the plan for all of you, to be as kind of creatively active and engaged with as many things as possible, actually until the day I drop down dead, which I'm hoping is a very long time. And on that note, Peter, do come in.
That's not right.
You're looking very smart, Peter.
Thank you.
Yeah, and how was the gym?
Marvellous, yes, as always.
Very
yes.
busy?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, people don't know what they're going to win yet, so just hold your horses. Yeah, I know you're always so keen. So I'm holding this up, it's going to kind of catch the light, but I have 2 of these kind of French curves. What do they call it? They call it an all-in-one pattern design instrument, a specially designed multi-purpose tool which speeds up and removes some of the drudgery from pattern cutting. Well, I'm afraid I do.
Pattern curve.
Oh, thank you. I do not. Oh, God, he's such a help, isn't he? I don't ever find pattern cutting drudgery. I enjoy doing it. And I can remember when I was a student, so when did I start training to be a clothes designer? Anyway, about 1979, 1980, a More Plan Pattern Master came out, and it was exactly this thing, and it was hailed as a kind of a wonder tool, and we all had to buy one, and at the time it was £20, and £20 was what I had to live on for a week, and so they are cheaper now than they were in 1980. So 2 lucky winners. we're going to draw out 2 numbers, and 2 lucky winners will be notified at the end of this session. And I'm going to have to make sure that I pack these up really carefully, aren't I, when they get sent off. So now is your moment, Peter.
Right, well, I'm just going to say, kind of apropos of nothing, but having gone to the gym, there's a guy that I see several times.
Does he do
gym.
pattern cutting?
No, he doesn't. Who knows? He doesn't look like a pattern cutter to me. You certainly would not want to mess about with this guy in a pub kind of thing. He is hugely strong, arms like, you know, fantastic physique. And what I really like about seeing him, he slightly inspires me. He comes straight from work. He wears high-vis trousers.
I thought you were going to say he wears high heels.
No. He may do that as well, right? But he has his high-vis trousers on, these, you know, luminous yellow, fluorescent yellow trousers on, and just comes in and gets straight to it. There's none of this putting any kit on or anything like that, because he knows if he goes home, he's not going to do it. So he comes, does it in his work clothes. And I think that's great that, you know, as we always say, it's about commitment, not equipment. Despite you, you know, offering this equipment, it is that you have to get out there and do it.
Super useful.
I love that.
Well, that's all we got time for.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
1, 2. Whoops, put that one back.
Right, okay. Thank you. We'll see you later. And you can announce the winners. Right, so I'm just moving my stuff. I've got lots of different bits and pieces to chat about this evening, so I feel like the table's really kind of full of stuff. And I've forgotten to get my cushion to sit on, so I'm feeling quite low down, but never mind. I'm not tall at the best of times. Right, question number 1, David. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so the first question is from Denise Bullock. Hi, Denise. Denise says, as I've got older, I've created a bulbous midriff and my dresses are too tight in this area. Most of the dresses I want to alter are shop bought with no seam allowance to take out. I've contemplated putting in extra contrasting material in the sides, but I can't seem to get these inserts to fit seamlessly. I've also tried the diamond shape, but this doesn't give me the extra width I need in all the right places. And I've also tried doing an inverted triangle, the point being at the bottom, at the waist, with the wider edge at the armpit. But again, this is not the fit that I need. The armpit area ends up being too big. Please, Philippa, I would appreciate any suggestions. Many thanks in advance. And that's from Denise.
Well, thank you, Denise. And also, we have a similar question later on from Elaine Parry. And so what I say in answer to this question, Denise's question and Elaine's question, might have some crossover and be pertinent to both of you and others, hopefully. I find your wording quite interesting here. I can't seem to get these inserts to fit seamlessly. Well, they're not going to fit seamlessly, are they? You need seams to get them in. I think it is a really fantastic idea to just update these clothes, and I think that, you know, you've got lots of possibilities there, haven't you? I mean, we don't have any photos of any of the dresses that you are hoping to alter, but think about, you know, if you had a plain dress, you could maybe find something in a check, and you could cut an insert on the bias to put in the side seam, and that would give a little bit more movement and more interest to the actual insert. Now, I have got upstairs, and Peter won't be able to find it because I've got wardrobes crammed full of clothes, but I have done this a couple of times myself, and one of the dresses that I did it on was a neoprene, a very heavy printed neoprene dress, which was a sleeveless dress, but it was the tiniest little thing, and I unpicked the sides and I inserted a piece of neoprene, plain piece in the sides, and I also put a very fluted hem on the bottom, so I lengthened it, so it looked very deliberate because I'd put the extra fabric in the side seams and on the bottom as well. So don't just think, don't Peter, don't even go there.
What colour is it?
No, you just will not be able to find it. And I really don't want him to do that because my wardrobe will be an utter mess at the end of it. Oh dear. Anyway, So, so think about kind of not just inserting in the side seams, for example. Think about making it more than just that one alteration. So, for example, again, if you'd got that checked fabric and it was, say it was a plain denim dress or something like that, you could get some buttons that and cover buttons so that you had the same fabric. You could maybe put a little bit of trim on a collar, on a cuff, etc. But what I'm going to suggest you do, because all of your dresses will be different, you know, there's no going to be one size fits all, but what I would do is I would unpick the first one. So I would open up the side seams and I would put that dress over my head, and I would cut a strip of just scrap fabric, a bit of calico, anything you happen to have, as long as the dress, and I would get someone to pin me kind of in it. So, and try, you know, you do need somebody with a little bit of kind of sewing savvy or a little bit of kind of artistic flair on that, because you want to try and get a similar amount on both sides. But if you get them to pin the side seams onto those strips of fabric, you will be able to see what the shape is that you need, and that's going to be much more accurate than if you just sort of unpick it and then think, oh well, I'm just going to add a bit on here and a bit on there. And if that piece is cut on the bias, it's got that more flexible it's more flexible basically, and so it will help to fit better. But what I also want to say to you is that, you know, you could change the style of the skirt, for example. So if it was a fairly straight dress, you know, your panel could be whatever you need it to be to the waist, and then you could flare it out, and so that you were adding a flared skirt to it, so it was a bit more swishy. You know, if you wanted to go to the trouble and there were princess seams in it, you could put a godé into the princess seam. So there's a lot you could do to really make it look intentional, instead of just a kind of, oh, she's whacked a bit of fabric in there. That is one of them actually, Peter. Not the one I was thinking of, but anyway, it is one of them. And so yes, pinning that strip of fabric and getting someone to pin you into it is the way that I would go with it. So, and yes, this one's very hard to see. All right, okay, it's very hard to see. This is not the dress that I was thinking, because it is very similar, but the dress that I was thinking about had a very printed panel front and back, and then it was a plain section in the side. Now, this one, it's going to be very hard for you to see, but it's a printed neoprene. So here, this black edge here and that black edge there, that was the original dress, like so. And so I put this printed panel that went all the way down the side, and I did make it wider at the bottom. It's considerably wider at the bottom, so I don't know if you can, very hard for me to sort of show you, but that is the width of the panel at the bottom. So it was so big at the top and then flared out at the bottom, and then I put this fluted hem on. And again, it is quite hard to see, but the mix of those two prints does look intentional and not as though it was just a kind of afterthought. So Elaine, I hope that helps you, and that you think really creatively about that, and just do one first, and then get your ideas going, and get that sorted out. Do it perhaps on your least favourite one, and then you'll know exactly what you need to do with the others. You will have to do that same thing though for every dress. You can't use that same panel for all of those different dresses. You will need to repeat the whole process. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Denise. There's at least one other person who says they've got the same problem. I think that will be quite a useful response for a lot of people who are suffering. We all suffer from, well, not everybody suffers from that. Quite a lot of us, and I'm including myself in that, might have a similar issue. Okay, next question is from Maureen Warden. And Maureen says, my question relates to making activewear for her to wear for Pilates and for her granddaughter's gym activities. She's attached some photos of some purchased leggings, which I am going to show. Oh, I can show you here like this. There we go. So there we can see the photos, right side and wrong side, which show the type of stitching that she wants to achieve on all the seams. She says she's got an overlocker and a cover stitch machine, but neither seem to offer this type of stitching. Can you advise what she should do to achieve that? And that's from Maureen.
So Peter can't resist rifling through my wardrobe. He has found the other dress which is the same company, but it's much easier to see in this one what has happened there. So it is the plain piece of fabric that is gone in there. It was a company called Clover Canyon, an American company, and they made these amazing printed neoprene outfits, but they were only in business for a few years and they disappeared. But I used to find their dresses were really expensive, but very occasionally I would find one in TK Maxx, TJ Maxx if you're in the States, same. And I think this one cost me £23, but it was the tiniest thing. But for £23 with this fantastic dress that would have cost $400 or some more, I wasn't not going to buy it, because I do know there always is a fix. So thank you very much, Peter. And I've just dropped my pencil on the floor with the dress, and then Peter's going to come back with a pencil. Right, so David, please could we just have that photo again, and then because I think there are two different things going on here in terms of the stitches that we've got. So if we look at the leggings, which are on the left hand side, it looks to me like there is a cover seam stitch with that. I'll chat a little bit more about that later. The stitch in the middle looks like a 4-thread overlock, and then the stitch on the right hand side also looks like cover seam. So thank you, David. So the different things going on there. Now then, what Maureen says is she does have a cover stitch machine and she has an overlocker. And the advantage of a cover stitch machine, and I have another little sample here, my entire wardrobe is around the table with me today, but the cover stitch, it doesn't trim as it cuts. So if you're serging or overlocking, whether you are neatening or whether you are actually joining two pieces of fabric to create a seam, what you are generally doing, unless you disengage the blades, is you are trimming as you sew. But if you want to join two pieces together or make a hem, and if you are wearing a t-shirt, if you just look at the hem of your t-shirt, it's extremely likely that is cover stitch. It doesn't actually cut, but it gives that multiple thread wide throw of a stitch that is very elastic. It moves because of that wide throw. There's lots of kind of ability for the thread to move without breaking down. Okay, and so without knowing what your sewing machine is, I'm sorry I can't say what the functions are on your sewing machine. But so the two outside ones look like a cover stitch, and the advantage for that for when you're doing gymnastics or something like that is that when the two pieces are sewn together and the stitching covers across the join, top and bottom, so on the front face and on the underside, but there's no seam allowance kind of flapping about. Everything is held together in an overlap, and so it doesn't chafe or rub, and you see it on all kinds of activewear, swimwear, that kind of thing. For that very reason, it's strong, it's flexible, and it's very flat, so it's not going to rub and cause any problems. It's going to be comfortable in very active activities. Now the one in the center that looks like the 4-thread overlock, I mean, that is your basic 3-thread overlock or serge with an extra thread running through the middle, so an extra line of stitching that gives increased strength. So again, it's very flexible. It will stretch with those performance fabrics that you are using in that type of activity. It won't break down, but it isn't flat to the body because there is a kind of seam allowance there. So there is a slight difference with that. What I'm going to suggest that you do, Maureen, is that you get a scrap of fabric. You know, you've probably got various bits of lycra or very sort of stretchy cotton fabrics, whatever it is. I mean, for your yoga, Pilates type activities, they are looser garments. They don't need to have the cover stitch in the same way because you're not doing vigorous activity, but you need kind of this space to be able to move and be comfortable. But I suggest that you really look at your manual and that you try the different stitches and see what works on the particular fabric. Now, when you have sewn two fabrics together, whether it's cover seam or a 4-thread overlock, and I certainly wouldn't be using a 3-thread overlock, which isn't as strong for this type of garment. It's fine for other knits, but you need it to be a really strong seam. Really pull it and stretch it and see what performs, what works. And I don't think that you need to kind of get too hung up on and must have the exact machine, because on lots of our domestic, just regular sewing machines, there are overlock type stitches. For example, on the Bernina, there's one that kind of does this and then it comes back on itself and it sort of stitches a kind of angled loop in a sense, but that has a lot of stretch. So look at the stitches that you've got, test them out and see what works for you. You know, there's nothing to stop you using an overlock stitch if you don't have a cover stitch machine, doing an overlock stitch and then maybe flattening the seam and top stitching a zigzag over it, always using a ballpoint needle, and seeing if that is strong enough and it has the stretch, because then you've got the ability to do that kind of flat to the body seam without having to have that very specialized cover stitch machine. Some overlockers are overlocker and cover stitch combined, but I do suggest that, and we checked in your library, Maureen, that you have another look at the Sewing with Knitted Fabrics class, because yes, you have watched most of it, but not since February 2024. I'm sorry that we're spying on you. It is really cruel, isn't it? But there may be some tips and hints in there that you have forgotten. I don't talk about cover stitch, but I do talk about overlocking, and we do look at that. Okay, so for any of you who don't have a serger, an overlocker or a cover stitch machine, don't think that you can't sew those types of fabrics for performance wear. You can definitely do that. Just explore what you've got on your sewing machine. Always explore, always make samples and see what you can come up with. So it doesn't have to be cover stitch, doesn't have to be overlock, you can do it.
Thank you, Philippa. Hopefully there's something in there for you, Maureen. Lots of advice, lots of good advice. Okay, the next question is from Liz. And Liz says, "Hi Philippa, I'm wanting to do some shearing smocking on the back of an oversized shirt dress and on the sleeves instead of the cuffs. I have no idea where to start. Is there a lesson that I haven't got to yet that you can point me in the right direction? Or if not, can you give me some tips on how to go about doing this? The shirt dress is a soft cotton, it's not a pattern. I'm doing a transformation based on something else I own. Thanks in advance," and that's from Liz.
Okay, Liz. Now, there isn't anything in any of the classes on shearing or smocking, but I can chat about that for you. Now then, what we don't know is the style of the garment, other than that it's a loose-fitting, oversized shirt dress. I don't know whether it's got a separate yoke or whether the back is all in one piece. I don't know whether you are intending to put your shearing or your smocking at the back waist, at the shoulders, whatever. So I do just want you to think about the effect of the actual process that you are hoping to do. So for example, if the garment has a yoke and you're intending to smock or shear across the yoke, that probably won't sit very nicely on the shoulders. So as I say, I don't really know what your intention is with that. However, let's just chat about shearing, which has been incredibly popular recently in summer dresses and blouses. It was really popular in the 70s. Some of you will remember, and it's had a real moment. A lot of those sundresses where the bodice was just sheared round and round and round and round. Or we did do rows across and then sew up two side seams. So you want, I would say, a polyester thread in the top of your sewing machine, and the shearing elastic is going to go into the bobbin. You can try winding the shearing elastic on the bobbin by machine or by hand. The tension does make a difference, because the more tightly you wind it, and you do need to wind it under some tension, the more tightly you wind it when you stitch, the more it will suck in. So you need to just kind of work on that a little bit. But you put a long stitch on your sewing machine, regular thread in the top, shearing elastic in the bottom, either hand or machine wound, and you're just going to either sew rows, parallel rows, or if you were doing something like a boob tube type top, you could just spiral it and go round. So that is really quite easy. The only kind of difficulty that I have found with doing shearing is that when it's a garment that's already assembled, it's a little bit hard to kind of keep moving round if you're going round and round. And also, once you've got the first 1, 2, 3 rows of shearing done, you've got to really kind of work at keeping the rows parallel, the rows of shearing parallel, because you've got to kind of stretch it But, you know, stretch it open as you sew subsequent rows, and there's a tendency for it to wobble a little bit, but that doesn't really matter too much with shearing as long as it's not a huge wobble, because the whole look of it all pulled and gathered in is really quite forgiving. Now that's the first thing. Now, smocking, I imagine you are going to do by hand, and yeah, smocking's also been quite popular recently, not to quite the same degree, but peasant blouses, embroidered blouses, that kind of thing. I always think about kind of 1930s little children's dresses with smocked yokes on the front. Lots of information online. Basically, you need a pattern in terms of a marker on your fabric to follow. So it generally is a dot, let's say every centimetre, every ½ inch, and then the dot, the next row of dots is in the middle. So 2 dots here, and then the next dot comes down in the middle below, and so on. And then you need to just have a look at kind of the stitch that you do by hand with normally an embroidery thread, something that's really going to show up. A gingham, a checked fabric is really useful because you don't need to mark out dots with that. You can just use the weave of the fabric to designate where you're taking the stitches. So I know that's not kind of it's not a demonstration, but hopefully that'll just enable you to think about where you're putting this smocking on. Is it going to work with the garment that you are doing? Is it shearing? Is it smocking? Which one is going to work best for you? And then investigate it a little further. And if possible, yeah, do a little bit of sampling just to try it out first, as always. Okay.
Thank you, Philippa. Okay, the next question is from Leslie, and Leslie says, I love the dress that you're wearing in the blouse class. Now, the interesting thing about this is we filmed the blouse class, I don't know how many, it seems like about 7 years ago now. It wasn't, it was about how long ago was
maybe
it?
About 3 or 4
maybe 3 or 4 years. Yeah. So you're watching it probably in the last couple of months, and it's all very contemporary for you, and for us it's quite a long time ago. So I certainly couldn't remember the dress. So I've pulled up the image so that other people can see it. So that was the dress. Sorry, back to me. Once I worked through the class, I would love to be able to make it. Where did you get the pattern from? All the very best to you and Peter, and thank you for giving us this amazing journey. And that's from Leslie. So it's really that dress, Philippa, and the pattern. What have you got to tell us about that?
So what I've got to tell you is this is the pattern.
Oh, right.
Okay.
I don't know if we can see that. Yeah.
And what it says on it is Woman's Weekly B645. It is a pattern from the 1970s that somebody gave me, and what I imagine is Woman's Weekly was a woman's magazine. I don't think it's still on the go. It's probably one of those offers where you could send off and get a pattern for 50p or something like that. So Woman's Weekly B645. It is going to be out there somewhere, but if you can actually find it, I think that you'll be very lucky. So somebody gave me the pattern, as I say. Now the fabric was kind of a bit William Morrissey fabric, but I got it in a quilt shop sale for £2 a metre. £2 a metre, and then I used some art gallery white cotton poplin for the collar, and then I made a little tie out of some blue art gallery fabric. So the whole dress probably cost me, I would say, £7, like $9 to make. But I'm really sorry it's not a contemporary pattern, but it is always worth doing a little Google search. But thank you very much for the compliment, and yes, it is getting cool enough for me to get that dress out again, which I will do before too long, I am sure.
Okay, I was just doing a search. I was trying to get the image up for you so that you could see the pattern more easily, and it came up on eBay. Now sometimes it comes up on eBay and it's already been sold. So, but if you want it, it might be out there somewhere still. Okay, the next. Well, it's not a question. It's just a statement from Rosemary, and we've kind of dealt with this because Rosemary said last one earlier in the comments, and we said it's not the last one. She says, "Oh, only to say, boy, am I going to miss you guys, and a huge thank you." Well, thank you, Rosemary. You've got another, is it 4 months, four sessions to go, so make the most of the next 4 months. But thank you very much for those sentiments. We're going to miss you guys too.
Can I just check before you read the next question out, please, David? So I'm a big book collector. I tend to buy a lot of books on non-fiction books, really, and home furnishings and pattern cutting and all kinds of things. And I was reading a website and it suggested this book, which is called Restoring Junk, which is right off my street, and it's by a lady called Suzanne Beedell, Beedell, and it was printed in 1970. But this book arrived and it was absolutely filthy. It cost me virtually nothing. It was absolutely filthy. It was as if somebody had been mixing concrete and they had the book at the side, and it was completely splattered with really what just looked like concrete. And so I cleaned it all up, and Peter said, "What's that you've got there?" And I said, it's a book on restoring junk. So he said, "Oh, you've started already then." Anyway, it's really good because I'm just restoring a picture frame, and it's very kind of technical, but it covers masses of things. So if you are interested in kind of restoring junk, it's a really good little book. I haven't had a chance to kind of read it all, obviously, because it only arrived today, but just it made me think about cleaning products as I was doing it, because it was also a library book and it had some sticky residue from labels on, so I was trying all kinds of things. I'm sure some of you know this, but often sticky residue will come off with crunchy peanut butter, and yes, I did have crunchy peanut butter to try and get rid of some of the marking on that. And that just led me to another thing, because I was with my hairdresser yesterday and she'd bought some very expensive underwear, and she was asking about how should she wash it, and I was suggesting that she used this product Soak, which is a product that will hold the actual dirt molecules in suspension in the water. It's quite expensive, and there is another one begins with E. I can't quite remember what the other one's called, but you just soak the garment with a small amount of this in water for 15 minutes or longer. It doesn't matter. If you leave it longer, you can then just take it out of the water. If it was a very delicate thing, you could roll it up in a towel and squash it. You could give it a light spin, but you don't even need to rinse it. So it's great for anything like delicate hand wash, underwear, sweaters, that kind of thing, because I actually really don't particularly like hand washing, but the thought that I can just bung it in a bucket and leave it and then just take it out is great. And then this is another product, and I've given it to my kids at Christmas. I think this is absolutely an amazing product. Again, it's not cheap, and it's not the only one out there, but it's made by a company that makes linseed paint, and the company is Bruns & Co, and that is BROUNS, and this is linseed hand soap. If anybody paints with oils, they will be really familiar with the scent of this. It seems to clean absolutely anything, and I gave some to my son. He said, "Yeah, it really does seem to clean absolutely everything." And I'm just in my bedroom, I've got a fairly pale kind of camely brownie coloured carpet. It's just plain, and very occasionally I use a lip brush, and very occasionally if I've been sharpening a lip pencil or something like that, a little fleck of red lipstick will fall onto the carpet. This takes it off like magic, like not a smear, not anything, any greasy mark, makeup on clothing, anything like that. I just think this is absolutely fantastic. So these two products I thoroughly recommend, and I use them often. So thank you. Now we can do the next question, David.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is from Elaine Parry. Elaine says, "I have a ready-to-wear linen top, which is now..." Some of the things which are on this question will also go back to the lady who wanted to insert the pieces in the side. I have a ready-to-wear linen top, and we've got an image of her top, which is now a little too tight to wear comfortably. All the seams are overlocked, so there is no room to let it out. I'd like to try to clone the top. I've bought some teal linen in the hope that this can be done. Do you have any hints or tips on how this can be done? Thanks for all your wonderful classes and the helpful suggestions you have given us all in the past. and that's from Elaine.
So,
what do we think, Philippa?
yes, Elaine, I think that the things that I spoke about earlier are pertinent to you again, and that I would do that unpicking of the side seams and pinning myself or getting someone to pin me into it. But I do have a couple of other things to say about this top. I don't know where it's really tight on you and whether the tightness is all the way up or whether it's more around the waist or whatever, but I've got two ideas. Well, yes, it is really two ideas. You could slit it all the way up the back to, if you remove the labels, you can put those back on if you want to. And what you could do is you could sew a godé in the back, so a triangular piece of fabric, and you've got this floral embroidery on the front, so you could pick the colour from that. Looks like you've got turquoisey colour in there. It could be a turquoisey piece that you put in the back. It could be, you know, a printed black and white flower, something like that. That would give you extra fabric around, particularly at the waist and the bottom, around your bottom and tummy area, not so much kind of at the top. Yes, it would give you a little bit, but not so much. Do you know what, Peter, I've got a jacket that I did exactly that. Are you there, Peter?
He's gone upstairs.
Oh, what a shame.
Oh no, he's here.
Oh, Peter, in the wardrobe, and above the drawer bit of the wardrobe, it might struggle to find it, there is a Vivienne Westwood denim jacket, and it's got a godé sewn in the back.
A what?
Don't worry, just see if you can see it. You're a master at finding things in my wardrobe. Yeah, it's just going to be chaos. There'll just be everything strewn over the bed, won't it? Now, if you need more fabric all the way up, then my suggestion is that you cut right through the back, including the binding on the top, and that you extend that piece of fabric all the way up. So that you are adding some width across the back neck, and you don't need to put the binding across there. You could just make a little facing to deal with that. So this, I think, is salvageable. Now then, when you come to actually make the pattern for the new one that you are going to make, do look at the shirt class, because the placket on the front of this top here is very similar to the placket on the sleeve in the shirt class, and that will really help you with that. And also on that, I'm pretty sure that I sew you a continuous strip placket, so not the same style as this, and I'm cutting up into a piece of fabric, and I do some stay stitching at the top of the cut. And if you were going to do the thing with the godé in at the back, that would be really helpful information, just showing you how to deal with actually sewing that little godé into the back there. So again, lots of possibilities on that, and hopefully shortly the jacket will arrive and we'll come back to it. But for now, we'll go on to the next question, please, David.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was just pulling up the image that goes with this one. Okay, so the next question is, there's a lot to this one, so buckle down, guys. This says, so this is from Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Lisa says, I'm new to dressmaking with Philippa and learning loads already. I have a specific question about the Tessuti Lois dress, and I'll pull up the image of that for you. So this is the dress, and the other images there will give you an idea as to what the questions are about. I'm 5'2" and a very important half, short but with a bust and bum, so not petite per se. I knew this dress would be too plunge. Internet advice was to sew an additional ½ inch to the shoulder seam of the neck, tapering to the arm to avoid reducing the armhole size. I toiled the top only and was happy with the fit, and the top in my fabric of choice seemed okay. When I added the skirt, the V sits too low. So when she added the skirt, the V sits too low. To adjust, I took an extra wide seam from the bust fabric, which raises the V slightly, but the stitch now cuts across my bust, not underneath it as it should. The photos don't quite show this, but the stitch line is sitting too high, and I think we can see that in the next image there. So the questions: how would you adjust this pattern pre-cutting the fabric to raise the V without losing it as a feature? And I think what I'm going to do, Philippa, do you want to deal with each one individually, or do you want me to go all the way through?
Perhaps we should do each one individually. I have got the denim jacket, so we will come back to the denim jacket.
So let's just go to Philippa.
Oh, sorry, no, I'll do the denim jacket after this question because we're sorry.
So do you want me to read the question?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Let's just do this question.
So how would you adjust the pattern pre-cutting fabric to raise the V without losing it as a feature? Adding a band or stitching the bottom of the V loses the impact. I have other dresses that are V-neck without being busty, so I know it can be done, but I'm shorter than average, so any shop-bought dress with a fitted bust can be too low, hence the desire to make my own clothes. What next step would you suggest to lift the V, please? When I attach the skirt to the top with the Tessuti recommended seam allowance, the top is too low. Shall I stop there, Philippa, or shall I keep going?
Yeah, stop.
Okay,
stop.
right. So
There's a lot to take in there, isn't there? Okay, and so the reason why your toile just of the top seemed okay was once you get the skirt on there, there's more weight and it pulls it down. So that's why it seemed okay initially and then it wasn't. So the first thing I'm going to say to you is you've got very nice cleavage, you know, and you've got a lovely necklace on. So yeah, maybe what we're seeing in the image there is the version where you have taken a larger seam allowance, and so the seam that joins the bodice to the skirt is sitting too high, which it shouldn't. Okay, but maybe you just need, firstly, just don't. I'm not going to tell you not to change this, but do kind of rethink what you think on that, yeah. And also, again, there are always possibilities, aren't they? So a pretty lacy cami top in, say, it looks like you've got a little bit of a plummy colour in there, or a dark pink or something like that, that just sat into that V, always looks really attractive, and that is another kind of opportunity to add colour, isn't it? You know, so that if you had this little flash of colour of a little cami top or something like that in, say, that pink, you know, then you could have shoes that colour, you could put a bracelet on that colour, earrings, whatever. So, you know, don't automatically dismiss it as being wrong. And I know Peter and David are in the room, but I kind of do see it because, you know, unfortunately there are some men who will just talk to your chest, won't they? If there was the opportunity there, they just can't, they can't look away. So, right, what would I do? Sorry?
Depends on the chest.
Depends on the chest. Well, I have to tell you this story. We have a friend, Linda, across the road, and she's 6'2", Peter. How tall is she? 6'1", and she's very tall. She's a foot taller than me at least, and she always used to wear the most incredible platforms and high heels. And when she was younger, a little bit less so now, but she would wear the most revealing, exotic clothes that you can imagine. We went to a dinner once, and she was wearing a black dress, but it was kind of cut like this, and the front was just laced, so there's huge amount of cleavage, right? And now I was sat down and she was stood up, and I was talking to her, and all I could see was this cleavage. And then I stood up and I was right here with the cleavage. And I said, I'm sorry, Linda, I just don't know where to stand or sit because all I'm faced with is your cleavage. Now, most guys would have loved that, but it did put me in a bit of an awkward spot. Anyway, moving on. What would I do? I would draft the pattern slightly differently. So, David, could you just pass me any old pair of scissors out of there, please? Any old pairs, good, thank you. So, these are wallpaper scissors. So, what the bust, it'll be something like this, what you will have. This is very rough, but you kind of get the idea. You will have something like that. So here is the centre front, obviously shoulder, armhole, and this is where it gets sewn onto the skirt. Now, I would make it different, and I think you have lots of options on what you could do with this. So if I just draw, I'm going to hold this up in a minute, hopefully it will show up. And again, this is incredibly rough. Can you see that or not see it? Too difficult to see.
Can't.
Okay, so what I would do, and I'll just cut it out, I would do one of two things. I would alter the angle of the front there, and I would have a seam so that instead of Let me just do this, thank you. Instead of having that, you can see that, David, yeah? I would have this. And so I would have a centre front seam that came higher, and then I would have changed the angle of the actual neckline so it wasn't as low. So what you would be doing is you would be sewing this centre front seam to, if the seam allowance was 5/8, I would stop 5/8 from the bottom, 5/8 from the bottom, press the seam open, there's a facing, blah blah blah, all of that, and then you can sew the skirt onto that, and so you will have a neckline that is higher. There will be a little seam here, and then you will have a much higher actual neckline in terms of the V. Now you can put that on a fold to eliminate that seam, and you would have to put some stay stitching just below your 5/8 of an inch line there, and you'd need to snip up the seam allowance in order to manipulate and get that in place. Or alternatively, you can make it a rounded scoop neck. You could take it higher if you're not pulling the dress over your head, so you could do lots of variation with that. So that is how I would approach it if I really decided that I did want to make the V of the neckline higher. So did that make sense, David? Okay, so that's what I would do. So hopefully that relatively short answer is sufficient to set you off on the path to a garment that you feel comfortable in, and you will still get admiring glances in it, but they will look at your face. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I think the question went on, but I think Philip has answered the full by redrafting that front. I think because Lisa's asked something about the neck facing at the shoulders. Do you want to?
Sorry, John, just ask me very quickly.
So if Lisa says, if I lift more at the shoulders, how do I handle the neck facing, which would need to be cut? It's internal, so it won't be seen. Or would the correct adjustment mean taking the facing off and starting over? But I think, Philippa, you've done a slightly different adjustment which doesn't need that, haven't you?
Yes, I have, and I will just very quickly say, if you are altering a neckline and say you are adding on at shoulders, or you're taking off at the shoulder, or you're altering the neckline in any way, your facing needs to be a replica of your altered garment pattern. Okay, so whatever you do to the outer part of the pattern, you have to do to the facing. And I'm trying to think in which class we show that, because we do talk about that somewhere. Have a look in the index, because it will let you know that. Okay.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. So thank you, Lisa. Lots to go out there, and a very, very helpful answer. Thank you, Philippa. Okay, the next question is from Jacqueline, and Jacqueline says, "Hello Philippa and David, I'm in the process of making a patchwork quilted jacket. I'm using your quilted jacket lesson to help me. I have my lining and I've made up most of the pieces for my pattern. My question is brushed cotton. I have been looking, and is that the same as Winciette? I'm in the UK. Thank you again for your wonderful lessons, both quilting and dressmaking." And that's from Jacqueline. So, Winciette and brushed cotton, are they the same thing, Philippa?
Yes, they can be, or they may be slightly different. But brushed cotton is a relatively loosely woven cotton that has been brushed on both sides, and it raises the nap and it makes it fluffy and warm and soft and comfortable. It does tend to shrink an awful lot, so I often recommend washing it more than once. You don't have to put it through a 90-degree wash or anything. It doesn't need to be a really long, arduous wash, but washing it once, maybe twice, is a good idea, because it might continue to shrink in subsequent washes. Winciette can be exactly the same thing. Just look to see what the fabric content is. It may have polyester in it, it may have viscose in it, it may be something else. Okay, so that may not matter as an interlining in this jacket. It might be absolutely fine, and obviously if there is another fibre in there, particularly if it's a man-made fibre, it is going to shrink less. So yes, I mean, if you can get a little sample and have a feel and wash it, then that's a really good idea. But I did just have a look online, and I just put in brushed cotton, and Fabrics Galore came up with loads of it straight away. So I don't know whether you are not wanting to buy online, but if you do a Google search, you should find lots of places. I just did a Google search and just bought what came up that seemed a good price with not really expensive shipping, and just washed it a couple of times before I used it. So I don't think you'll have any problem in finding that, Jacqueline. So before we go on the denim jacket. Okay, so this was this
is a Vivienne Westwood, isn't it?
This is a Vivienne Westwood that was in a sale, and it was a really funky denim jacket. It doesn't have the conventional fastening. It kind of overlaps, and it has this tail effect at the front. But again, it was tiny. It was in the sale because it was really tiny, and I really, really wanted it. And it's beautiful denim, and it was massively reduced. I mean, you can tell, can't you? I'm from Yorkshire. I never buy anything that is the full price. So it is going to be hard to see. Shall I lay it on the table? Yeah. So I did get a denim that was fairly similar. I used the wrong side of the denim, so this is kind of the inside of the denim, and I just slit it, and then I folded, pressed back a seam allowance on the jacket, and then I just laid a piece of fabric underneath that and tacked it in place. Now if I turn it over, it is actually quite a big section that I put in. So I did actually unpick the back yoke, and I inserted it in, and I've folded back quite a hem, and I've top stitched it, and then I hand stitched the bottom, and just felt that was going to give it structure really. But what I also did with it, because I had cut just into the fabric, there's no seam above and below, I just found a little bit of ribbon. It's one of those lovely embroidered ribbons, and it had different motifs along it, and I just cut 2 little sections of ribbon, and I just made them into almost little labels, and I stitched one at the top and one at the bottom as a little extra design feature, but also to cover that slightly vulnerable area at the bottom. So again, you can see it is a case where I've kind of made it a real feature, and adding those 2 little elements really just gives it a bit more, made it so much more comfortable to wear. I did it a good number of years ago that I did it. Probably if I did it now, I might be more adventurous and put a piece of red denim or something completely different, maybe a bit of corduroy or something like that in a lovely red cord or something. But anyway, that's the perfect example of what I was talking about. So thank you very much, Peter. It was very helpful. You've been extremely helpful today. Didn't need to go to the gym, did you? The number of times you've run up and downstairs on my account. It's too nice.
Okay. So the next question is from Helen Milford, and Helen says, hello, good morning to you all from sunny, although not for long, Devon. I made the shorts from this pattern, and we've got the image here. If I can, I need to press this button. I made the shorts from this pattern, a few adjustments, and was really pleased with the fit. However, I'm about to cut out the full length, but the width of the hem is huge, and there is no help on the pattern sheet. There is a line that I presume is for this, but only on the picture, nothing on the printed tissue. Do I just cut the side seam narrower, or is there something else I should do? Thank you in advance, and I love your question time. And that's from Helen Milford.
Well, thank you for loving us, Helen. We love to be loved. Right, Helen, it's a great pattern. I hope you're enjoying exploring it. I have the trousers here and I have the pattern. What's really nice about this pattern is that it's available in a really big size range. So from really petite to really quite large, and also that whether you are slim or kind of what is considered average, or whether you are more curvy, there is a version for you in these patterns. And yeah, I did actually really enjoy doing it. Now here are the trousers that I made in the class, and basically they're pretty straight from top to bottom. There's a very slight flare out towards the hem. It looks more actually, as David's showing it there, but really, if I hold it like that, can you see it's very little? And so I actually think they're very flattering, because they, once they're on the waist, they just hang beautifully straight down, and you know, they don't taper in and make your hips look big. But anyway, it's obviously, we don't know your shape and what you really love to wear, what looks good on you. So I have a copy of the pattern here, and this is just one of the fronts. And so basically what you want to decide is, what would you like the lower hem to be? I would caution you on taking it too tapered, because that's not what this pattern is about. If you want a really tapered kind of cigarette style trouser, I'm going to suggest you need an alternative pattern, something that is designed like that from the start. But what I would do is I would take a tape measure, and I would measure some trousers that you like the width of, and see how it differs. I would also kind of step into the circle of that tape measure, of that measurement that you've chosen, to see what that looks like, you know, when you've got your foot in there, you know, how much of width is there, do you feel it's enough, not enough? And then you are going to taper. Now obviously you don't want to be tapering at the hip, because you don't want to take off any of that measurement unless you've got incredibly slim hips. But basically I would say from about, here's the crotch, so below the crotch I would just taper a straight line down on the inside and the outside, and I would take pretty much equal amounts off both the inside and the outside. And you're always looking for a smooth curve, so if you've taken a bit off and you've got a lump either on the inside or the outside, you need to redraw that curve. Okay, and I was just going to, that's what I was going to say to you. Now then, if you are going to make these more tapered as they go towards the hem, or just you will need to turn up a hem, and I like to have quite a big hem. Now what is the hem on these? The hem on these is probably about a couple of inches, 2¼ inches. I think trousers hang better if they've got a decent hem. It's like we were talking about putting the bodice onto the skirt of the dress with the too low neck earlier. There's a bit of weight there, they hang better. So if you're going to taper down, well, it's a good idea that to kind of leave yourself a little bit to play with, because what you want at the bottom, so this is where you are going to turn up. Here's your taper, and your hem needs to mirror image that taper, so that when you turn it up, the section that you are turning up is not too tight, and it's going to sit perfectly smoothly, and you're not going to be conscious of any stitching. So that's quite an important point. Otherwise you'd end up having to have a very, very narrow hem, or sewing some kind of false hem on it. So an equal amount from both sides. I don't suggest that you take off too much. Check it before you do it, and if you want really, really tapered trousers, then choose an alternative pattern.
Okay, thank you, Philippa. I'm losing my place on where we're at. We're doing good. We've got one more question left, and we are just coming up to the hour, so we're pretty good timing. The last question, I think, we haven't done Jill's yet. No, we've got 2 questions to go. So the next question is from Jill, and Jill says, hello Philippa and David, I'd really welcome your advice on my current project. I'm making a relatively easy dress, the pattern attached below, and I'll pop that up in a second. But the fabric that I have chosen is a fairly fluid viscose. I love the colour, but it isn't the easiest to handle. I'm currently watching the bridesmaid dress tutorial, which seems to be full of wise advice. I was thinking that I would need to wear a slip under the dress because it will definitely be too see-through otherwise. However, I'm now considering whether I should line it or partially line the dress instead. So my queries are about whether this would seem to be possible, and if so, what sort of fabric to use as the lining. I don't think I have enough of the viscose. I wondered about using some white cotton lawn that I already have, or should I be looking for something in the same pink colour as the viscose? An additional question is how to determine which is the right and the wrong side of the viscose fabric, which I'm sure Philippa can help you with. All advice and tips will be most welcome, and I will put up the image just as soon as I find it.
Right, okay, Jill. Lots of things that you need help with there. Yeah, viscose can be very unstable. It can be a little bit unstable. It does tend to be quite fluid, and that's why it's so comfortable to wear, because it'll move with you, and also it absorbs moisture. Blah blah blah. Similar to cotton, but yes, it can be quite stretchy, and yeah, it can move. So,
here's the pattern.
What should you do? Oh, sorry, I just showed the pattern. Right, okay, thank you. So it's a fairly loose style, isn't it? The bodice isn't fitted, the skirt's got some parts, got some nice movement to it. It's not tight to the body. What I would say to you is that when you choose a different fabric, it can shrink at different rates. I'm going to give you a little example of that. This is a dress that I bought some years ago, and the outer fabric is a very nice printed linen, and it has a cotton lawn lining, and when I bought it, the lining just sat nicely above the hem of the dress, and then I washed it, and I washed it a number of times because I've had it a long time, and the dress shrank and shrank and shrank, and the lining got longer and longer by comparison, and I ended up taking up, that's 3 inches or more of the lining, because that is how much that was showing underneath the actual dress. Fortunately, it was a loose style because it was shrinking this way as well as this way, but it's probably about 2 sizes smaller than it was when I bought it. Again, I did buy it in a sale, of course, but it was not a cheap dress.
That's all my shirts.
Yeah. So it's a devil, isn't it? Yeah. It never happens to Peter, funnily enough. Peter's the same size as he's always been for the last, I don't know, 55 years or more. Right, so I do think you need to be aware of that. That's not to say that you shouldn't line it with something different. I think what would I do with it? Well, firstly, with the cotton lawn that you've already got, put it underneath your pink fabric and see whether it changes the colour, and whether, if it does, whether that bothers you, because that's the first decision on deciding whether you're going to choose that or not. If you don't, you can see through and don't like it, then you need something pink. Ideally, I would choose another viscose if possible, but it doesn't have to be. You know, if you were going to use a cotton lawn, or perhaps the cotton lawn that you've already got, I certainly think for the bodice I might cut it on the bias. The skirt doesn't matter, but I just think that in terms of all the movement, it'll just be more comfortable, and it'll be more akin to the handle of the viscose if you cut the bodice part on the bias. But really, I think just a separate slip or a separate lining is where I would go with it. I did show you that wedding dress that I made a couple of months ago, and that had a separate underdress because it just makes it so much easier to clean and launder, and then you do have the option of wearing it or not wearing it. And if it's really warm, you know, you might decide that you just want to wear a little half slip under it, and you know, so I think having a separate item is the way to go. And you could make it specifically for that dress to live with that dress, but you wouldn't always have to wear it with that dress, and you'd have the option of wearing it with other things as well. So I'm giving you a lot of kind of different options there, but this is what I think. If it was me, I'd make it a separate lining. I really would. But if you want to go with the fabric that you've already got, cut the bodice on the bias and cut the skirt just on the straight grain. But if you want to spend more money, you might be better buying a bit more of a viscose for a lining where you're going to sew it in. But yeah, your choice really. There's no right or wrong answer. There are just multiple possibilities.
Thank you. Okay, final question. Final question is from Jane Petley Jones, and Jane has a question about working with Thai silk. She says, I went to a fabric swap session and came away with several beautiful lengths of Thai silk. I've been admiring them in their bags and thinking about what to make, and I would love to make maybe a tunic top or a shift dress, but I'm wondering about how to handle the fabric. Now we've got an image here which you can see. When I got one length out today to see how it handles, the weft at the top edge pulled right out of the warp. What will happen when I try to cut it? And you've got quite a few bits of silk there. The fabric is quite stiff, particularly across the weft, although there is a lot more give down the warp edges. Should I avoid gathering and pleating, or maybe use the fabric sideways? What type of stitches would hold seams without allowing the fraying? Will I be able to press? Lots of questions there. For any tips would be very welcome, and because there may be some questions which Jane hasn't realised she needs to ask that Philippa knows the answer to anyway. So what would you do, Philippa?
Well, and what's really interesting about this is that it says on the bags how much there is. So there's 3 yards and 3 yards and 6 yards. You've got a lot of fabric there. Yeah. And the question you have to ask yourself, it was a swap. Why was that person getting rid of it? Yeah. Maybe it was a bit too tricky for them to deal with, right? So this, I'm going to go through what you said. I'm going to try and give you as much information as possible. I have worked with Thai silk in the past. When I lived in Saudi, I used to, there was another designer that had done a similar course to me. We had a business doing evening and wedding dresses for expats, so lots of Australians, Brits, etc. And often they would go on holiday to Thailand, and then they would bring us a piece of fabric back. And it was very inexpensive, and then we would charge them an absolute fortune. And it was like, okay, you're maybe not going to get so much wear out of that fabric because maybe it's not going to have the longevity that you would like. The first thing I'm going to say to you, check if it is colour fast, because often these fabrics are not colour fast, and if you're going to make a dress or a blouse out of it, you're going to need to wash it. And so depending on how colour fast they are, that might be a consideration. It might be something that you need to really think about, and if it actually matters to you. So that is the first thing that I would say to you. Okay, now there is absolutely nothing wrong with you cutting the fabric from across, using the grain line across from selvage to selvage where there is least stretch. So, you know, in an ideal world, yeah, we should cut parallel to the selvage for the centre front and centre back of a garment. But I would always encourage you to be creative and do what you think works best. And if you feel that the fabric is stronger in one direction than the other, don't slavishly stick to and must be parallel to the selvage. So I would definitely say that to you. These fabrics, as you can see in the picture, they fray like crazy. They're quite loosely woven, and when you sew the seam, if the style is in any way fitted, you get grinning, where you get the fabric pulling away at the stitching, and you can kind of see threads, and it sort of pulls away. So you are wise not to make anything that is too fitted with them. Now you could get another fine silk, just a much plainer weave silk, because without the slub in it, and you could treat the two fabrics as one. So you could baste them together, and lots of basting. I'm trying to think whether there's anything. I think I maybe talk about it in the trouser class, because in the what Philippa did next, I talk about half lining some woolen trousers, and you could treat it as one, and that would give stability to the fabric. And I would cut all of those. What I would do is I would baste the two fabrics together, and I would lay my pattern on it, and I would maybe chalk around it with some tailor's chalk or something like that, and I'd be cutting them out just a very fraction bigger, and then anything like side seams, hems, I would be overlocking the two together, okay, before I started to assemble them. And when you do things like that, when you turning up your hem and your hand stitch, slip stitching your hem in place, you can stitch it just to the lining section, it doesn't go all the way through. So there are advantages of doing that, but there can also be disadvantages, you know, that, you know, do you pre-wash them both? Does, as I've previously said, one react differently to laundering? Does it shrink? Blah blah blah. So you end up with two layers that are not the same. So what else? Yes, you can press it. Silk presses beautifully. You don't put it on your cotton setting, but you can press it with a little bit of steam, or you can spritz it. Some silks will watermark. I talk about that in the gowns and wrap class. But if you treat it carefully, try it out first, press under a pressing cloth, you won't have any problem pressing it. Absolutely not. And yes, I do really think you need to overlock the edges and just regular straight seams. So I think what I'm saying is these fabrics were very popular in the 80s and into the 90s for more formal wear, so for evening dresses, party dresses, evening jackets, even waistcoats, that kind of thing. So there were special clothes that were not worn often, that were not laundered, cleaned often, often kind of fitted bodices with very full skirts and things like that. So I think that I want to encourage you to think of it as more special wear and not everyday wear, but I wouldn't in any way say don't use it. It looks beautiful, the colours are really rich, but I think you need to do some kind of testing out and trying beforehand, and if you don't want to put it into a garment, I don't know, lovely cushions, quilts, wall hanging. I'm not sure. I think I've given you a lot of information to really think about there. Did I answer everything I was supposed to answer?
I think so.
Okay, so yeah, and bias cut, yeah, you could do. It just actually reminded me, there's been a lot of going down memory lane here, but we did once, Jenny, the other designer, and myself, we made a gorgeous evening dress for a lady out of some Thai silk, and it was a halter neck, and the top was cut on the bias, but it was lots of overlapping pleated sections that were all stitched down and then put onto a structured lining with a gathered skirt that was like a tulip, and it was lapped over, and it was Thingy Darling, what was she called? Sue Darling, Australian, and she was gorgeous, wasn't she? Do you remember her? She lived on Dana. Anyway, so yes, we did do something very special in terms of evening wear with it, and she did look $1 million in it. So think of it more as special occasion wear rather than everyday clothing. So, time to finish. Do you know what? Actually, more time this evening answering our questions than we were with the quilters on Tuesday, which is quite unusual, but nice to have a little change around with that. On this occasion. So Peter, I think we are ready for you. Here he comes.
Move all these clothes.
Yeah, Peter, could you just pop upstairs and
Yeah. Wait till you see the bedroom.
Yeah, that's what I said every time we went out the door. I said it's going to be a wreck when I go up there.
Well, finding the denim jacket. Do you know how many denim jackets there are up there?
I did say I have a lot of clothes. I never lie about the fact that I have a lot of clothes.
At least 4 denim jackets, yeah. Right, the lucky winners are Fenella Gray and Megan Arnold.
Marvellous. Well done, you two. I think that's a really lovely gift, and will be really helpful, and not just in pattern cutting and making alterations on patterns, are really useful for all kinds of curve drawing and measuring. So yeah, a really nice, hopefully very useful gift there. So David will get in touch and find out where we need to send your gifts to, and then we will get those off to you. Now then, next month David is away and I am away, and we cannot do our normal Tuesday and Thursday, and we will let you know all of this on the very emails and all the rest of it, but we are actually going to do back-to-back sessions on the Tuesday. So our quilters question time and our garment makers question time will be on the same Tuesday evening. We have never done that before. That's going to be we probably won't need to again. It'll be quite the experience. We'll be pretty exhausted by the end of it, but it'll be fun. And yeah, these get filmed, don't they? They are recorded and they go into your library, so you do not have to sit through hours of listening to me answering questions unless you particularly want to. So just to be warned that next month, instead of the Thursday, your garment makers questions will be on the Tuesday, the same evening as
Tuesday the 23rd we're doing it.
Yes, the 23rd. Thank you, David. So, but we'll let you know all of that. Our alternative was to miss something out, and we definitely didn't want to do that. So I'm sure that you won't mind. So, any other information we need to impart before we leave?
Just a reminder that the store closes on Sunday. So if you want any of these classes, this is your last 3-4 days to purchase them, and after that the store will be permanently closed for all the reasons that we've talked about before. So don't wait, don't be messaging me on Monday because that will break my heart as well as yours. If you want to order anything, please do so but before the end of Sunday.
Yes, and thank you for all of your support and for all the classes that you have bought over the years. It's been very generous of you all, and you've kept us in food and clothes, multiple clothes. Yeah. No, really, it has been very generous of you to take us on trust and become part of our community. So sincerely, thank you for all of that. So, and thank you.
Do you want to tell them where you are on the 22nd?
No, thank you, no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
No, there's a reason why I don't thank you, Peter. Okay, thank you. Yes, you're very helpful at finding things in the wardrobe, Peter. Okay, right, so we will see you towards the end of September on Tuesday evening. We will look forward to that. Thank you for your questions. They were really great. Keep them coming. Make the most of us while we are here to answer them. I'm sending you my love because I just think that, yeah, you've meant so much and you continue to mean so much to me. So thank you, all of you, and we'll see you in September. It's bye from David.
Bye-bye.
And from Peter.
Bye-bye.
And from me. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a wonderful month. See you in September.